Morning, everybody. We are just letting everybody in because we've got a brilliant number of attendees waiting in the lobby, as it were. So we're just letting them all in and then we'll make a start. If you can just bear with us for a minute. It looks like it's gone quite quiet, so I'll make a start while Violetta is letting people in. So good morning, everybody. We're absolutely delighted that you've been able to join our virtual learning cafe today, which is on the theme of parents as partners, working with parents as safeguarding partners. We've had 162 people sign up to this event, so we're really, really pleased. We've got some fantastic speakers today. Who I will introduce shortly. We have a session of an hour and a half, so we will be finishing strictly at 11:30 because I know that you're all busy. Just a few housekeeping rules to start with. I'm Gail Gibbons. I'm Head of Change for Children's Services and Health at the Youth Endowment Fund, and I'm joined today by my brilliant colleague Violetta Tattoo, who is facilitating the technology behind the scenes. You might see her pop up in a moment. In terms of housekeeping, we are going to be recording the session, and afterwards we will be putting the recording and all the slides on our website, both for yourselves if you want to have another look at the slides, etc., or share them with colleagues, and also you can signpost to colleagues as well. We are letting you know, though, that we will be editing the video recording slightly because we do have Amanda. We're very extremely grateful to Amanda for coming today, who is a parent who will be talking about her own experiences. So I'm sure you can understand we don't want to record that section for posterity. So we will be doing a bit of editing of the recording. But the slides themselves are anonymised, so we're happy to share those as well. So, order of the day, we are starting with Sarah, who I'll introduce in a second. Sarah and the training team will be presenting first from the Iverson Trust. We'll then pause for some questions before then introducing Charlotte and Amanda from East Sussex Council, and then Richard Eastwood from Missing People, and then we'll have some more questions at the end. If you do have anything that comes to mind as we're going through, please pop it in the chat and we'll pick that up as well. Or if you want to put a question in there rather than raising your hand at the end, that's absolutely fine. We shall also pick that up. So in terms of our three presenters today, first we have Dr. Sarah Hall from the Iverson Trust. For those who don't know, the Iverson Trust works with parents and carers of children at risk of exploitation outside the family and also provides guidance and training to professionals. So Sarah will be particularly focusing today on the relational safeguarding model, as well as talking about contextual safeguarding and the wider work of the Trust. We're then joined by Charlotte Flynn and Amanda Singata, who are from East Sussex Council, and they're doing some really exciting innovative work in East Sussex in terms of working with children and parents at risk of exploitation. Charlotte is the practice manager for contextual safeguarding in East Sussex, and they will be talking through their case offer, which is the Collaboration Against Child Exploitation programme. And then lastly, we have Richard Eastwood, who is the service manager of the national charity Missing People, and he's the service manager of Safe Call, which is a Home Office funded 24-hour helpline. Rich will give us more details later, for children, parents and wider family members where children are being criminally exploited, involved in county lines or missing. And Rich is going to talk through some of their work in the national helpline as well. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to start presenting her slides.
Thanks, you, Gail. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, great. Perfect.
Always a good start if you can hear and see the speaker, isn't it? So good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be with you. Thank you for the introduction, Gail. My name's Sarah, and I head up the research and training here at Iverson Trust. In case you're wondering who on earth we are, we were known as PACE. so it might be more familiar to you. We've recently rebranded. So I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes telling you just briefly about what we do and how we work. But as Gail said, the main focus of my presentation is telling you about our relational safeguarding model and how that works in alignment with the contextual safeguarding approach, which we are massive advocates at here at Iverson Trust. And I'm going to give you a bit of evidence, some evaluations and research that we've conducted very recently, which really show how effective it is to use this model and approach, because primarily they increase the safeguarding of the child, which is what we are all here to do, I'm sure. So if you don't know anything about us, we've been around 27 years. We're based in Leeds in West Yorkshire. We work nationally, and we were founded by the woman on the left of your screen who was called Irene Iverson. Irene was a professional woman back in the 1990s, had 3 children. One of those children was called Fiona, whose picture is on the right of your screen. And when Fiona was 13 years old, she was targeted by offenders outside the family who groomed her and sexually exploited her over a period of 4 years. Now, you think things are challenging now when it comes to responding to child exploitation. Back in the 1990s, it was a living nightmare. And Fiona was viewed to and referred to as a child prostitute. Despite Irene's best efforts, she found it very difficult to get support in for her daughter, and certainly not for herself. When Fiona was 17 years old, she went missing. And on the Sunday morning, the weekend, Sunday morning, if you remember those days, we used to get our news through local papers on the radio. A newspaper dropped through Irene's door. And on the front page of that newspaper was a story about the body of a young woman who'd been found in a multi-storey car park. And Irene went on to write a book about this, and she said she just knew. She just knew it was her daughter. And tragically, it turned out that unbeknownst to Irene, Fiona had been made to start selling sex on the streets. And 3 weeks after the men who'd exploited her put her on the streets, she was murdered by somebody who was trying to buy sex from her. Now, the man who murdered her was sent to prison for life, but the men who'd exploited her and put her in that position in the first place, nothing happened to them. And years later, when I was working in South Yorkshire, I sat with youth workers who knew this story, and they say to me, Sarah, do you know what? The same men are still exploiting young people. Shocking, isn't it? But perhaps not a surprise. Irene linked up with other affected parents. She started up this charity. She herself sadly passed away at a very young age of 50 in 2000, but the legacy of her work continues. And what we do is we work with parents and carers who are non-offending parents and carers who have a child that is at risk of or is being sexually or criminally exploited. We offer a real wraparound service. So from the very early signs to right after, when parents are living with the legacy of the devastation that exploitation causes to their child. And we work with professionals to show them, train them, and evidence what the best practice approaches are to working with families who are going through the hell that is child exploitation. Little wheel of what we do. I won't go into this in great detail because you can find it all on our website. But 2 of the most relevant things that I want to share with you that I'm going to refer to shortly are our National Parent Support Team. So here in Leeds, we have some fantastic staff who work across the country offering telephone support to parents and carers. Parents self-refer to this service. We find that works much more effectively. We do not want to be part of a child protection plan, for example, where that plan says the parent has to work with us. It's up to the parent. We're a voluntary sector organisation, completely voluntary. And then we have parent liaison officers who are in certain areas of the country, mainly at the moment in Yorkshire, Lancashire and Merseyside. And these are very specially trained people, wonderful people, who are based within multi-agency co-located CSE and CCE teams. And they are there for the parent. And we find that way of working works brilliantly, and I'm going to give you the evidence base for that shortly. Everything else you can see on our wheel. Lots of parent support work, lots of parent participation, and lots of training. So let me tell you about our relational safeguarding model. We've worked and are working with hundreds, thousands of parents right across the UK. And what we've come to realise during that time very clearly is that, as many of you will know, our current child protection system simply is not fit for purpose when it comes to responding to extrafamilial risk and harm. It was not designed for that. It was not set up for that. And so what we've been doing for a long time and are continuing to do is try to fit a square peg in a round hole. Square peg of our child protection system into the round hole of extrafamilial harm, and it doesn't fit. And the people that pay the price for that are young people and their families, and very often professionals who become very burnt out and disillusioned with the systems that they're working in. So we need change. And I'll give you a little story to illustrate that. Many years ago, I worked here at Iverson Trust as a parent support worker, and I worked with a mum who had a 15-year-old daughter who was being sexually exploited. It had gone on for 6 months. It was horrendous, everything you can imagine. And we had a strategy meeting on the Monday morning. And on Sunday night, she rings me and she says, Sarah, my daughter's just been brought home in the back of a car. She's been raped, very violently raped. There's blood everywhere. I can't move her. So I talk to her and I comfort her and we get her daughter back into the house. I put the phone down. Monday morning comes round, 9:30. You'll be familiar with this, I'm sure. Strategy meeting at Social Care Building. And sitting around that table, 15 of us, not mum, because she's looking after her traumatised daughter, but police, social worker, IRO, and deputy head of the school. Because, as is so often the case, it wasn't just this young woman at his school who was being exploited, it was other young women. And he was frustrated, he was concerned, he was worried. And we shared this new information from the night before, as I've shared information and others of us had over the past 6 months. And at one point, the deputy head stopped the meeting and he looked at us all and he said, is there anybody in this room who does not think this young woman's life is in jeopardy? As in, she's going to be killed. And there was a bit of a tumbleweed moment as we all shuffled our papers, but not one of us disagreed that this woman's life was at risk, that she might be murdered. And you know what the outcome of that meeting was? It was we would meet in a month and the social worker who had so far been unable to engage this young woman would continue to try and engage this young woman. And I remember sitting at that meeting, and this was replicated around the country. I worked in places like Rotherham, Rochdale, those kind of places, scratching my head, thinking, I know what can happen to this young woman in half an hour, let alone a month. And essentially, we're leaving her in that situation because we don't know what to do. And what I didn't realise at the time, but I understand much more clearly now, is that was because we were fitting square peg of our child protection system into the round hole of extrafamilial harm, and it didn't fit. Plus, a pretty significant dose of victim blaming. She was 15, nearly 16. She wouldn't engage. She was putting herself at risk. She was making herself vulnerable. She was promiscuous. All this language that we are trying so hard to flush out. 10 years later, that case went to court. It turned out there were 300 men involved in the exploitation of that young woman and other young women. And we had essentially left her to it. My theory is that depending on where and by whom, as a young person, you are raped or sexually assaulted in this country, you will get a different response. If it is within the home, you will be safeguarded immediately. If it's by a family member. If it is outside the home, you are not safeguarded immediately. I'm not saying I have a magic answer for that, but it's very problematic. And I believe, and we at Iverson Trust believe, that the relational safeguarding model, when used in alignment with the contextual safeguarding approach, offers real solutions and real hope. Real hope. If you want to hang your hat on anything as you go through your career in child protection, I believe fundamentally contextual safeguarding and the relational safeguarding model is the way to go. So, what is our relational safeguarding model? There's really 3 principles, but as you can see in the title, like most things in life, it's all about relationships. We believe that maintaining relationships between professionals and parents, parents and professionals, parents and young people and professionals, is absolutely pivotal when it comes to tackling sexual exploitation and criminal exploitation and disrupting these offenders who can so often feel like they are miles ahead of us, that we're always catching up, that we're always reacting, not being proactive. And there are 3 principles. So firstly, wherever possible, we advocate that you work with parents as partners. Now, you might look at that screen and think, well, of course, Sarah's going to say that she works for a charity working with non-offending parents. It's not just me saying it. It's not just us saying it. Eileen Monroe, in her very famous Child Protection Review of 2011, said it. Alexis J, Carleen Furman, all the big hitters in this world of research say, where possible, ever possible, work with parents as partners. And what does that mean? That means involving them, including them, informing them, consulting with them. But we've got that stumbling block right off, haven't we? Because what happens when parents go for support or are under social care? Through no fault of social workers, this is not about anything to do with social workers. This is about the systems. They may be put on a child protection plan under the category of neglect because we don't have an alternative pathway in most parts of the country. What happens? The walls go up. They come in for support, and what they hear is, it's my fault. Totally counterproductive. So we need to work with them as partners, because where do the majority of young people live who are being exploited by extra-familial people? They live in the family home, in whatever form that comes. Yes, there's a disproportionate amount of young people in the care system. Are they there because they've been exploited? Very often. But the majority are living in the family home. And the majority of parents have their best interest of the child at heart. But they need things explaining to them. They need the acronyms we use, the systems we use. We need to manage their expectations of what the police and social services can and can't do. And that's where we come in the role that we play. So work with them as partners wherever possible. The access they have to information that may be used as intelligence is phenomenal. And I'll talk about that a bit in a minute. But also they need their own trauma recognised. I've worked in a lot of jobs over my years, as you will have too. I have never worked in a tougher job than sitting with a parent whose child is under the control of somebody who's often unseen, who has distorted that child's perspective so fundamentally that they don't even recognise their child anymore. And I always use this very cheesy expression, which is very easy to say in a cold light day when I've slept and I've had my fruit and fibre and a few coffees. Leaving the porch light on for young people is so important. But for a parent to be able to leave that porch light on, as in when their child comes home at 3 a.m. and there's the parent haven't slept for 48 hours, are going out of their mind with worry and just want to be angry, to let that child come in and know they're safe and loved. They need support to be able to do that. They need support to be able to support their child, to be able to maintain and sustain that relationship. Because what does the offender want to do? The offender wants to isolate that child from their support networks. If they don't isolate them, they don't control them. If they don't control them, they've got a grass on their hands, someone who will tell on them. So the antidote to that is trying to enable that parent to maintain and sustain that relationship with their child. Doesn't solve everything, but it's a massive part of it. Second one, and if you've got a pen and a paper, I would love you to join in with this section. So, got a pen and a paper? Draw me a triangle. At the bottom of the triangle, write young person and family. On the left of the triangle, write offenders, and on the right of the triangle, write locations. So, the second principle of the relational safeguarding model is, when you are making a safeguarding plan, you have to address the extra-familial risk. Radical, eh? But it often is radical. Because when we go to a child protection meeting or a strategy meeting, where are the majority of the actions? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I pretty much guarantee the majority of the actions are under the young person and the family. How do we affect the behaviour of the young person? How do we change, improve the parenting? You have action after action after action on the bottom of that triangle. Often there are no actions on either side. That is not a holistic safeguarding plan. That is a traditional child protection system. And unfortunately, it does not work for extra-familial harm. You can dig up all you want about that family history. Mum went through domestic abuse. Dad drinks too much. Whatever. If that equation, we bring that up and we try and solve the exploitation, I'll be like, go for it, but it doesn't. It just makes the parent feel blamed. So to have a holistic safeguarding plan, we have to have actions all around this triangle. Who is sitting around those meetings? Who can disrupt the offenders? Yes, it's the police, but the police can't do it on their own. They can't do it on their own. We have to work in partnership. We have to think broadly as we can when it comes to disruption. So that in turn means we have to think about who has a reach into the locations, the hotspots we're concerned with, who can impact that, who can safeguard that space in that context. If you don't have all three sides of this triangle populated, you don't have a holistic safeguarding plan. Okay, third principle. As I mentioned, parents have access to a huge amount of information that may be used as intelligence to disrupt the offenders. They need to be sitting around that table. They need to be part of the population of that triangle. Use it to disrupt those offenders. Okay, so those are the three principles. And as I said, it works in perfect alignment with the contextual safeguarding approach. And these are the famous circles that I'm sure you're all familiar with. Oh my gosh, I love contextual safeguarding. Honestly, I should be on commission from them. It's so optimistic, it's so hopeful. I don't know of anything else out there that offers and is rigorous in its research and its evidence-based that contextual safeguarding offers. So we know we have a child protection system set up for harm in the family, and to all intents and purposes it does what it's supposed to do. 90% of what social workers deal with will be that. But there are places and spaces outside the home as that child goes into adolescence where the parents are not, and yet if something happens to them, they will still be expected to be the primary safeguarders, and they cannot do it on their own. So contextual safeguarding advocates for working with parents as partners, as does our relational safeguarding model. We have to think differently when we're working with adolescents, when we're dealing with harm and abuse and neglect and exploitation that is happening outside the home. Why do we need it? This is some of the evidence we put together. So me and some colleagues did some research a couple of years ago about parents' experiences of children's social care when their child was being sexually exploited. We could have done this research with any sector, but we chose to do it with social workers, social care, because it was often parents reporting to us that they had a problematic relationship with children's social care because of the systems that they were working with. And the overwhelming finding from the research was that contextual safeguarding was absolutely needed. The relational safeguarding model was absolutely needed. Parents reported that they did not feel listened to, that they felt blamed, that they felt treated as inadequate. They didn't feel consulted with or informed. Fundamentally, they felt they were viewed as part of the problem, as a deficit, never as part of the solution or any of their strengths recognised. And that the overwhelming focus from agencies was on their parental failures, the need for parental change, and what that meant was an absenting of attention on the perpetrator. And this was so counterproductive for the parents, very hurtful, very devastating, and achieved nothing. And as you can imagine, as I said, our parents are massive fans of the contextual safeguarding approach, because what it does is it looks at where the problem is actually coming from. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be sitting here in another 10 years having the same conversations. I might be retired by then, but I doubt it the way things are going. We need change. We need change. Final couple of things. We did an evaluation in 2022, and we've just completed another evaluation in 2024 with the Violence Reduction Partnership in West Yorkshire. That one is yet to be released. It's coming out any day now, but I can draw on the figures from the evaluation 2022, which are replicated in the evaluation that we've just completed. And what we found in terms of the way that we work with the relational safeguarding model, especially with our national parent support team, telephone support, 96% of parents felt less isolated. 93% of parents had a better understanding of the effects of exploitation and abuse in their child, and 73% of parents felt their communication with their child had improved. The safeguarding of their child increased. Under our parent liaison officer support, those ones who are co-located, 90% of parents felt their understanding of sexual exploitation and criminal exploitation improved. 79% of parents felt more confident to respond to their child's trauma, and 63% said they felt the information that they had given to their PLO had been used by the police to disrupt offenders. A police intel officer said to me recently, Sarah, we wouldn't know 50% of what we know without that relationship between the PLO and the parent, because what partners say is our role, voluntary, independent. We don't have the same agenda that other people has. We don't have limits on our time. That means people trust us, they share things with us, and so on. PLOs National Parent Support Workers, the evidence shows, eases pressure on very hard pressed social workers and family support workers. We are there for the parent. It eases that mindset of the social worker that they have to eke out more time. And as I've said all along, having an Iverson Trust worker involved, supporting the parent as a partner increases the safeguarding of the child. So to finish, as you might imagine, we have seen the evidence of how the relational safeguarding model works, how contextual safeguarding works, and we advocate for it in everything we do. So I've gone over my time, I know, so I will stop there. I hope that's been useful. Happy to take questions, but otherwise, thank you very much for listening. And if you want to see those evaluations or find out anything more about us, do have a look at our website.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was such a powerful presentation. And I can see all the applause, the hearts going up. Obviously, really appreciated. We have gone slightly over, but I think if there are any questions, and I think there might be one coming in at the moment. No, this has been amazing. Thank you, Grace. Any questions that anyone wants to ask Sarah before we move on, or you might want to digest a bit and bring them in later on? Has anyone got any questions right now? Nope, nothing at the moment, Sarah, other than lots of appreciation, but there may be some further down the line. There's a question here. Where can we find the booklets referred to?
If you go on our website, so that's www.iversontrust.org.uk, everything's on there. The evaluation from the West Yorkshire Violence Reduction Partnership is not out yet, but as I say, it's coming out imminently. But the findings in that very much replicate the findings in the evaluation from 2022, which is slightly more extensive. So do have a look on our website.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. So, okay, Charlotte and Amanda, over to you if you want to share your slides and start your presentation.
Thank you very much. Right, I will just share our slides and then we'll get going. Sorry, it's just taking a while. And hopefully that's now come up full screen.
Yeah, it looks great. Thanks, Charlotte.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. Amanda and I are here to talk about collaboration against child exploitation. So just quickly, some introductions. So my name is Charlotte Flynn. I'm one of the practice managers in the exploitation team in Children's Services down in East Sussex, in the South East Coast. And my role has a particular focus on contextual safeguarding. So I was particularly excited to hear about kind of Sarah's passion in the previous presentation about contextual safeguarding. And this is...
My name's Amanda and I'm a parent mentor with CASE.
So just to go over the agenda, so what we're going to be next 20 minutes. So we're going to talk about the collaboration against child exploitation offer in East Sussex. The acronym for this is CASE, and I will refer to it as CASE as we go forward, just for ease. We're going to briefly touch on the development of CASE, next steps locally, and then importantly, the parent's perspective. So Amanda's going to talk through her experiences of exploitation, her case journey, and some of the parent feedback. Before we move on, I just want to highlight really that the focus of our presentation is very much thinking about parents as partners in safeguarding and what this looks like in East Sussex. So given this, I'm going to aim to be really succinct in my parts of the presentation to allow more time for Amanda's reflections on this from the perspective of a parent. So if I seem as though I'm only very much providing a highlight or an overview of the areas that we touch on, that is very much deliberate to give time for Amanda. So the case offer. The current case offer, what does this look like in East Sussex? So essentially there are educative sessions and ongoing support groups. So educative sessions are 6-week group sessions for parents and carers around all aspects of exploitation. They're delivered by key workers in the exploitation team with co-delivery of some of the sessions with the parent mentor volunteers who have lived experience of exploitation and involvement with case. The content of the programmes is regularly reviewed and adapted, and this is really very much led by the themes that parents and carers bring to sessions. But kind of a typical structure is outlined on the screen. So what is exploitation? Social media and online presence, knives and weapons, adolescent to parent abuse and strengthening relationships, substances, emotional wellbeing and mental health, and then forward planning. So just to note, these educative sessions are universal access. So whilst many parents and carers who attend are open to teams within children's services, this isn't always the case and anybody can attend. They're run all over the county with the times varying to ensure that they're accessible for parents and carers. So we have programmes running during the day and in the evenings. Parent support groups. So each educative group will have a subsequent parent support group, and these are informal monthly meetings co-facilitated by the key workers and parent mentors. They also have specific input from particular agencies, and again this will be led by the parents and carers in the group if there are particular themes or areas that they have a particular interest or concern on. And they're also supported by WhatsApp group chats, so that parents and mentors can have that peer support in an ongoing way. Okay, so who are we? So CASE sits within the exploitation team in children's services, and this is a multidisciplinary team including social workers, key workers and police. And parent mentors are really integral to CASE, and we're going through a process right at the moment actually that is around formalising this role into a volunteer role. So parents and carers who have undertaken one of the educative group sessions and who have lived experience of exploitation are able to apply to become volunteers as part of CASE. And this can involve mentoring support for parents, carers, like I said, co-delivery of the educative and group sessions, as well as wider development work that parent mentors are involved in. So, for example, we've done a piece of contextual safeguarding work at one of our local train stations with a particular focus on county lines and exploitation. And over a week's period, we ran 2 kind of engagement events, which the parent mentors attended to really promote an understanding around exploitation and the support that is out there for parents. So moving this role to a volunteer role is really about recognising and reflecting the importance of parents as safeguarding partners, and it very much opens up opportunities for the parents and carers in terms of training and development and supervision and becoming part of the broader team. So key workers, so within the team we've got specialist key workers focused on exploitation, and they have smaller caseloads than social workers, for example, which then supports them in being able to work intensively and flexibly with families. We also then have the parents and carers who attend the groups, and like I said, many of those will have children and be open to children's services, but it is a universal offer. And then other professionals. So we have specialist professionals who attend the education sessions, for example, the Under 25 Substance Misuse Service and Sussex Police. So just really quickly, because I'm mindful of time and I want to kind of give as much time for Amanda to speak as possible. So kind of how did CASE evolve? So it really started or emerged kind of around the pandemic. Thinking about the first national lockdown in Hastings, we really saw an increase in change within the risk presentation of children who were victim to criminal exploitation in the Hastings area. So changes included increased and extended missing episodes out of county, increases in offending relating to drug supply and possession of weapons, and more intelligence linking children to county lines and gang activity out of county. So in London, Birmingham, Thames Valley, Slough and Chatham. So one of the responses to that was a peer group assessment taking a contextual safeguarding approach. And what we found, and I know this is really, really common across contextual safeguarding assessments, is that many of the children as part of that assessment were very guarded within that process for understandable reasons. But what we did find was that many of the parents really wanted to speak to the people involved in the assessment about their experiences of exploitation and their contact with services. And the idea behind CASE was parents a voice, to bring them together with other parents to share their experiences and support one another, and to help them feel less alone and valued in what is a really respectful partnership with other agencies. And I know Amanda's going to touch on that from her perspective in a couple of minutes. So it really evolved through feedback from parents with lived experience. So initially we met with a small group of parents to talk about what knowledge they felt was missing and what would be helpful for the group. We also spoke with key work clients and looked at where we were getting positive outcomes. And from this, we developed the 5 themes, so the structure of the sessions. And since then, it's really kind of grown and developed into more and more sessions across county, and the development of really specific themes to support parents. And then just finally from me, what next? So we are currently running pilot projects through some Youth Endowment Fund external funding, which we've called the Bright Path Project. And that is very much about supporting children and families who are at risk of criminal exploitation and violence outside of the home. In East Sussex, we have a particular focus in supporting parents where there are those emerging concerns around exploitation. And as part of this project, we're developing new programmes, new case programmes for parents. Our focus is very much on transitions, kind of at both ends. So we've got a focus on parents of primary school children, so those children 10-year-olds who are transitioning from primary to secondary school. And then at the other end, those children and young people who are transitioning into adulthood, so 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And obviously there's recognition that the content of those programmes needs to look very different. So we've got some new programmes developed. And as I touched on earlier, we're very much right in the middle of a process of opening up opportunities for parent mentors to become volunteers and the training and development that involves for them.
Have you got your slides ready? But we're really excited to hear about the work of missing people and Safe Call. And obviously Amanda has had a brilliant experience already, which we did not set that up at all. So over to you.
I'm feeling a little bit kind of like I am really. That's a hard act to follow. This is going to be very dry. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. I mean, I just want to just say thanks for sharing your story and also the great work that you're doing in Sussex as well. I mean, let's just kind of acknowledge that as well, and obviously the stuff that Iverson are doing as well. I've worked with them many times before, and yeah, there's some great conversations here. So I'm hoping that this will be of interest, but. Hopefully, if not, my Essex accent should spice it up a little bit. I can drop some T's and kind of, act a bit like a Barrow boy, if you like. Okay, so look, it's really great to see so many people at the cafe this morning, and demonstrates the importance of the topic at hand today. As mentioned, my name is Richard Eastwood, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about the Safe Call service. I also am using notes as well and have got new glasses on that don't fit too well. So, we could have a few issues going on here for the comedy value at least. So, let's see how we go. So as a practitioner, I've been working with young people and their families for over 25 years, within the world of county lines for well over 10 years now. I've been embedded within various policing teams up and down the country, working with local authorities and charitable organisations, NGOs, etc., etc. I've been a spot for modern day slavery, violence and vulnerability and county lines, and I've also worked closely with ROCU, TOEX, all these other policing teams that, are just got wonderful acronyms and don't really sort of mean much at all, including the British Transport Police and, bits and pieces of them. Been involved with STROs, gang injunctions, all this kind of stuff, training people on the NRM and Section 45 defence. So what you can take from that is I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly of county lines over the years and child criminal exploitation. And as far as this road is, or as far along this road as we are, there's still a huge amount of travel left in this road, and we've got to just keep ploughing on. So Safe Call is a service that's funded by the Home Office. We're part of the Missing People charity, which is a charity that's been around for over 30 years now. Safe Call service has 3 main strands to its model, and I'll be giving an overview of each of the strands of this service this morning. Happy to answer further questions, or if you need to contact me via email post this, more than happy for my email to be shared. So we're quite unique in this space. First of all, being funded by the Home Office to be a national support service, which is quite unique in itself. But also the fact that we are doing these three different ways of working with young people. We're working with young people, families, and professionals. There's some glaring gaps within this world, and we're trying to kind of plug them as best as we can. So I'm going to try and risk playing a video for you today. This is a video that was created in partnership with a young filmmaker called Liam Rogers at the South London Film Festival. It's quite heavy, so, you know, always look after yourself for these sorts of things. And if you have to dip off, I won't have a problem with that whatsoever. Almost forgot to take myself off mute then. Okay, biggest faux pas of the 21st century. So what is SafeCall? It's a confidential and anonymous helpline and support service for young people and family members that are affected by missing, county lines and criminal exploitation. The service also provides confidential support and advice for professionals in relation to their work with exploited young people or their families. The support that we offer is service user led. Individuals can choose to remain anonymous, receiving totally confidential and emotional support with discussion around options available to them and next steps, as well as signposting to other services to support them with any specific or identified needs. Individuals can contact the service by phone, text, or online chat, and the helpline is accessible from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. Any individuals that would benefit from more in-depth practical support and are happy to be known, share some information with us, these individuals can receive support from the SafeCall team in the form of advocacy or casework. SafeCall can also refer parents, carers, family members and young people to our specialist counselling service. It's a bespoke counselling service and it's free to the service user and includes 6 to 12 sessions which can take place via Zoom or phone. I also like to add that it's much shorter waiting list than an NHS waiting list. So, you know, if you're caught up in that and you're looking for a service, then perhaps maybe drop me an email. SafeCall also offer 2 different platforms for peer support. There's an online family forum, which is a private message board where family members can share and get advice and support, heavily moderated. I'm on there every single day. I know the team are as well, just ensuring that, you know, nothing which is too overt is posted on there or anything which is identifying. And there's also a monthly safe and social peer support group which takes place online. We'll speak more about that in a moment. SafeCall is also available to provide advice and support to professionals. There's no threshold for a referral into the service, which is open to anyone affected by CCE through county lines, many of whom are also affected by related issues such as sexual abuse and exploitation and missing. There's no limit to the length of time that we can support someone. You know, we're available for as long as we're needed. This could be a phone call, it could be a couple of text messages, or it could be longer term, more in-depth support. Oh, I'm going to be risky now and play another video. This one, you know what? This is another powerful video, but it's got a really important message, which we'll talk about at the end. So yeah, hopefully this will play okay. Well, there we go. So another really powerful video, and I won't, she won't thank me for this, but it always reminds me of my mum who used to work in the co-op. She's retired, 30 years she was sitting on that till. And the amount of young people that she would have engaged with and spoken to that perhaps maybe were experiencing this type of exploitation and were caught up with things that, no young person should ever be caught up in. And it's really important that we remember as professionals to listen to the families that we're working with. Listen, we need to hear what parents are telling us. We need to understand what caregivers and those who are in the familial home are saying to us when they're saying things aren't right. This early warning, this early intervention stuff is so important. So Safe Call supports, we're going to drill down to what we do for young people first. So Safe Call supports children and young people affected by exploitation at county lines, aged up to the age of and including 24 years old. This includes children and young people who live at home, those who live in residential care, and those who live in supported living accommodation, and everything in between. Safe Call provides a vital, non-judgmental space for young people where they can talk through what's happening for them now or what they've experienced, particularly at a time of crisis. Contacts are all led by the young person and at their pace. It's about empowering the young person. If a young person is taking that step to talk to us, we need to give them the power to feel like they're being heard and feel that they are the most important person in that conversation. We can listen to young people talk through options, explore ways to keep themselves safe, or we can provide more practical support in terms of liaising with professionals and family members to help the young person to have their wishes and views heard and to support them in asking for what they want. Safeguard is a safeguarding service. However, we offer a unique opportunity for young people to share their experience and concerns with an adult and to be listened to in a confidential and non-judgmental space. Our aim is always to ensure that the young person has the support and information available to them to keep themselves safe. We recognise the importance of being able to keep all information shared by the young person confidential. And it may be that they are accessing the service anonymously, in which case we wouldn't be able to share any information if we needed to. But the counter argument is, if a young person's talking to us, that's better than them talking to nobody at all. Most of the cases that come through to us that are anonymised end up going through to the next section where they become a known young person. So, you know, we try to kind of manage that safeguarding stuff as best as we can and move them across to knowing who they are, so we can put in safeguarding in place if needed. So, you know, if a young person is working with us on a known basis and has agreed to share the information with us about who they are, we are open and transparent about the instances in which we might need to make a decision to share information to keep them safe. If a young person meets their safeguarding threshold, we inform the young person of this and the reasons why this decision has been taken, and involve them with the next steps. Young people will have an allocated safe call worker, and they'll also have access to other workers in the team if they do contact the service at a time when the worker's not available. For young people who would like support and speak to someone outside of the safe call operating hours, they also have access to our helpline, which is open 7 days a week, which is part of the same staff team. All support provided by SafeCall is offered virtually, and where young people are in the areas covered by Catch-22's rescue and support service, we refer those young people with consent into that service where they can receive face-to-face support and ongoing interventions. We work in partnership with Catch-22. They do the face-to-face stuff, we do the virtual. Referrals between SafeCall and Catch-22 can ensure that young people are offered options and can choose what the support they receive looks like and access help in a way that works for them. So a case study, a young person named Jay, obviously names have been changed and details have been changed, etc. Jay was referred by the parent who contacted SafeCall and needed support. Parent and Jay had moved to temporary accommodation away from their home after several years of Jay being exploited. The exploitation involved time in trap houses, physical violence, drug use. Jay was reporting experiencing PTSD or symptoms of PTSD, and there were serious physical injuries as a consequence of the exploitation. At the time of calling, Jay was concerned about the recent move and their new temporary accommodation. You know, the pull factors going back to where they were. You know, friends and people that perhaps maybe owed money to, etc., etc. Their mental and physical safety was a concern as well as missing family closer to home. Jay made no request for SafeCall initially, but through SafeCall support, largely emotional support and listening, the young person did begin to talk to SafeCall about what they wanted and how they were feeling. With the support of SafeCall, Jay was then able to access the GP and started to engage in local community activities and started to kind of feel part of a community that they were new to. And as they started to become part of that community and started to, you know, becoming ingrained in that whole new world, the old world started to disappear, and the work the SafeCall worker was able to do was much more positive than perhaps maybe if they'd stayed where they were and continued to be in that cycle of exploitation. Okay, SafeCall for parents. So we provide emotional and practical support to parents, carers, and family members, including siblings who have been affected by the issue of county lines of exploitation. Any family member, we will work with them. We provide a unique role by advocating for families in crisis, helping them to be heard by the statutory agencies in their life and ensuring that they get the support they need as a family. Each family member will be allocated a worker who will make consistent contact on a basis that's defined by the family member. This support again is individually led and can be short term or longer term. We have absolutely no limits on how long you can work with us. There's none of this 6 session stuff with us. It's kind of, you know, when the work's done, the work's done. For example, you know, this could be just a couple of quick conversations. It could be a referral into a peer support group. It could be something simple like that. Or again, it could be, you know, lots of advocacy, lots of safety planning, lots of support in, you know, how to communicate with the young people in their life, etc. On occasion, we will support a young person and their family member at the same time. And in these cases, we maintain confidentiality for both by allocating different safe call workers to each service user. As I oversee the whole service, I know exactly who's doing what, but none of the team know that a young person's working with another member of the team. We're really hot on that confidentiality. Parents and carers who we work with are able to access the Safe and Social group and the Family Support Forum, as already mentioned. Both are valuable peer support platforms for family members to share experiences and gain advice from other individuals who have been impacted by similar issues. I noticed someone was setting something up similar to this. So if you wanted to get some advice on this, please drop me an email. The Safe and Social group is run by Missing People staff. It's actually facilitated by myself and one of the support team. We run it in partnership with Walk With Me, and there's also a family member with lived experience who, will talk as well. It's really, really powerful when you have. I'm going off my notes here because it's really powerful to have a parent who is going through this experience to share their story, and to have another parent, not a professional, not a social worker, not a police officer, not a support worker from an NGO or a charity, but another parent to say, I know how you feel, I know what you're going through, and I'm here for you. That blows me away, and I'm quite tough. I've been around the block, and I have to go off camera when those sorts of things happen, because it's just it's a really powerful thing. We established a group because working with families, we did a survey, and families were looking for guidance and support from peers, those with experience of having an exploited child or young person who is worried, or being involved in frightening or worrying things, or feeling helpless. We also offer, like I say, the support forum, which again is heavily moderated. It's more about kind of, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? We're looking at kind of, things like the NRM, things like, what should happen when the police return home my young person, what is the Section 45 defence. These types of conversations are more for the forum, but again, it's really a great access for parents to have, because as I'm sure a lot of you know, most of the parents that we deal with haven't got a clue about any of this stuff, whereas as professionals we are done to all the time. I've lost count the amount of child criminal exploitation webinars that I've been to over the years. So Sam was a parent who was referred into Safe Call for support and advice due to their young person going missing. The young person was suspected of being a victim of CCE and CSE. Sam received one-to-one support from one of our Safe Call workers and attended the Safe and Social group. The Safe Call worker supported with safety planning, responding to the young person's missing episodes, etc. Safe could also talk with mum about exploitation, how the exploiters try to break links with protective factors such as school, family, friends. And the Safe Call worker offered to advocate for Sam with professionals, get their views across, and to advocate for the support needed as a family. There's a lot more to this particular story. However, it resulted in a complaint being made to the local authority regarding the young person being taken out of school and being put in a position where they were more vulnerable because they had nowhere to go during the daytime. It's a really, really interesting case, and it's still continuing. I'm trying to rush now, Gail, so I should be finished shortly. So for professionals, the third strain, professionals can refer young people, family members who they're working with into Safe Call for support. This could be, social workers, police staff, care staff, other organisations. We provide guidance to and share specialist knowledge with professionals and those working with exploited and victims of county lines and missing. On a case-by-case basis, we can help a professional with safety planning to help them provide an effective safeguarding response for the young person they're working with. We also share good practice around ongoing support needs for young people and their family members. Missing People, the greater charity, provides training courses for professionals, and the Missing People website has a wealth of valuable research. All of Us Are Broken is a really interesting piece to work if you work with young people in care, for instance, and lots of resources available. We also have lots of resources available to you as professionals, so please drop me an email. And I am just finishing now, so there's some lovely quotes here. Look, I won't read them out to you. You're more than capable of reading them yourselves. But the parents that work with us, we have a statistic of something like 100% of all of the parents that have worked with us have said what a difference it has made working with the service, which, they may well be just giving us a nice response on our feedback survey, or there may be more to it, but it's a nice statistic to have, and I'll keep hold of that. So yeah, thanks very much for your time today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard, for your presentation. Really, really interesting. And I'm sure people appreciated getting some more information there. We've got just a handful of minutes. There's a couple of questions for you, Rich, in the chat. There's, am I right? I think I'm right to say this is a national service, because a couple of people have asked, is it operational outside London?
Oh gosh, yes. Sorry, London. We love you as a capital city, but not everything is about London, and not everything is about urban street gangs in London. We've got a lot of stuff going outside of the cities, and we cover the whole of the UK. Scotland, not just yet. Watch this space, but England, Wales, etc., etc.
Brilliant. And then somebody has also asked whether they could get in touch with Safe Call for concerns about sexual exploitation, or is it just for criminal exploitation?
Yeah, no, sexual exploitation as well. We can work with a young person on that. It all depends. It's a case by case basis. So if you come to us as a professional, we'll triage it, but we'll talk through whatever it is, and if we can work with you, we'll find a way. I'm one of these people that gets in trouble a lot for maybe picking up things that perhaps maybe a little bit outside, but you know what I mean. At the end of the day, it's young people, and this stuff shouldn't be happening to young people, whatever it is. So, if I'm not going to pick it up, I'm not having them waiting for however long for someone else to pick it up. But don't tell my boss.
We've got you on record, Rich, with more than 100 people with that. Just quickly answering Trish's question. Yes, there'll be a link to the slides and the edited presentations to anyone who's attended today. And then we've had a question, Rich, from Anna Wallace. How does she get a hold of information for schools about Safe Call? Do you have resources on your website, for example?
Yeah, we do. Anna, I'm actually I shouldn't say this stuff, but it's being recorded as well, Gail. So I'm going to get in all sorts of trouble. But I'm actually putting together a pilot for schools, so I'd be keen to speak to anyone from the education side of things. But I mean, if you're looking for resources, please drop me a line. I've got links to all sorts of bits and pieces. We are a charity, we are funded by the Home Office, and we are a charity, so we don't have much money, so we can't send you hard copies of things. But we've got some wonderful links and bits and pieces that we can forward to you. All right.
That is fantastic. And Violetta has just dropped our feedback form into the chat. Please, please, please fill out the feedback form because we want to know what you think about our virtual learning cafes, what you'd like to see in the future, and how we can improve. So if you could just take a moment, and it's a very short feedback form, we would massively appreciate that. I'm going to wrap up now because we're just nearing the end. This has been an incredibly powerful, hard-hitting session. I'm very aware of that, with some fabulous speakers. And most of the people on this call are from professional backgrounds working with children and young people, but that doesn't mean to say that people aren't going to be personally affected and professionally affected about the topics that we've been discussing today. So take a moment for yourself, take some time out, be kind to yourself. And if you have been affected by anything that's been said today, then please do get in touch with any of the three. I hope I'm okay to say this, everybody, with any of the three groups of presenters today, because as you can hear, particularly the Iverson Trust and Safe Call at Missing People, they're national resources. So you can absolutely do that. But also for anyone in East Sussex, and I'm sure as long as you're not bombarded, Charlotte and Amanda, you'd also be interested to hear from people outside East Sussex as well. So do get in touch if you want more of a chat or any support. Thank you ever so much for your time today. Really appreciated it and hope that you enjoyed it. And we'll hope to see you at a future event. Thanks, everyone.